It's just been announced that Israeli Defense Forces are indeed about to launch a full-blown assault on the remaining Hamas fighters in the city of Rafah. Now, this was expected. Hamas has largely been pushed back into Rafah, and it was only a matter of time before Israeli forces launched a campaign to destroy what remains of the Hamas infrastructure. And yet, as it turns out, one nation that isn't even involved at all in the entire Middle East conflict is the one that stands to ultimately benefit from all of this. This is going to absolutely blow you away. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, are you looking to get out of your job in this economy and maybe considered business or franchise opportunities, but were put off by the $1 million price tags? I recommend tapping into the parallel economy with your own online e-commerce store business and gaining a life of freedom. My friend and fellow patriot Alex Alberon has a tremendous track record of building successful online businesses for Turley talkers in our community. I'm so grateful to have him sponsoring this video today. He's a member of Trump's golf club. He's a close ally of President Trump's and is a multi-million-dollar online entrepreneur. It's the real deal. Alex offers an amazing program where he will personally help you launch your own online e-commerce store. He'll help you with everything from selecting products, creating your store, marketing your products, and much, much more, all for a fraction of the cost to start a traditional business opportunity. Turn your dreams into reality, gang. Discover how you can apply your business ability and Alex's framework for online success to create a positive impact for you and your family. Book a free consultation with Alex to learn more by clicking on the link below or by visiting alexalberon.com/Turley right now. Thanks, Alex. Israeli officials have announced that they will indeed be invading, taking military action against Hamas in the Palestinian city of Rafah, which is Hamas's last city of refuge, as it were. Israeli officials issued the warning in order to give Palestinian citizens time to evacuate and leave parts of the city. But many are saying, given the strict Israeli enforced limitations on their travel, they actually have nowhere to go. Now, this warning of an imminent invasion comes less than 24 hours after a Hamas rocket attack killed 4 Israeli soldiers on Sunday. Washington officials feared that that attack would hasten the timetable of a Rafah invasion, and they were obviously right in those concerns. Now, if you don't know, Rafah is a Palestinian city in the southern Gaza Strip. There are over 1 million Palestinians who live there. 500,000 of them are children, and it's feared that a full-blown Israeli invasion and military offensive in Rafah would be catastrophic in terms of innocent casualties. Now, interestingly, Hamas did immediately announce their acceptance of Israel's terms to a ceasefire shortly after the IDF made the announcement that all civilians should leave parts of Rafah. And as in the making of this video, Israeli forces have yet to issue a response. However, while no formal response has been given, in many ways, I think we already have it. You can hear it in the rhetoric that's coming out of Israel, particularly among the hardliners who are getting more and more extreme. Here's Shimon Boker, the vice chairman of World Likud, which is the international arm of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's party.
צריך להיכנס בהם עד הסוף, עד שהם יצעקו את המילה חמאס.
אבל משפחות החטופים אומרים שאם תיכנסו לרפיח, החטופים ירצחו.
אבל אנחנו רואים מה הם עושים, הם צוחקים עליהם.
אז תסביר לי רגע מה דעתך, כי לא הבנתי,
אני חושב שצריך להיכנס, אתמול כבר לרפיח, להיכנס...
ואז מה יקרה?
להיכנס ולהרוג...
ואז הם יצאו מתחת לאדמה.
אין שם בלתי מעורבים, צריך להיכנס ולהרוג, ולהרוג, ולהרוג.
הבנתי, וזה יחזיר את החטופים.
ולהרוג אותם, שם צריך להרוג אותם.
ואיך יחזרו החטופים בוקר?
אנחנו ננסה להגיע אליהם.
Now, for those of you listening by way of podcast, by one of our 15 million downloads here, he basically said there, according to the translation I have, quote, I think we should have gone into Rafah yesterday already. There are no uninvolved civilians there. You have to go in and kill, and kill. We have to kill them before they kill us. So what you're hearing there, for right or for wrong, that is rhetoric that's hardly indicative of a coming ceasefire. I mean, I think the chances of a ceasefire are growing more and more remote by the day. Now, This is all happening at the very same time that the ICC, the International Criminal Court, is threatening to investigate the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, for war crimes, particularly for forced mass starvation. And the Biden administration, along with the Republicans in Congress, are actually telling the ICC to back off. In fact, they're arguing that the ICC does not have that kind of jurisdiction. Enter stage right Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, I hope you understand why Putin is rather perplexed at that response by U.S. officials. Several months back, the very same ICC issued a warrant for President Vladimir Putin's arrest for alleged war crimes in Ukraine, which, of course, is about as farcical of a ruling you could possibly get. Obviously, the Russian Federation would no more allow the arresting of their president on foreign soil than we would, however much we might want that arrest, given our current incontinent in chief. But the irony here is that the Biden administration was all over this. I mean, they were fully supportive of the ICC's warning against Putin and even promised to enforce it if given the chance. But now the Biden administration has conveniently changed its tune. Now when it comes to Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, suddenly now the ICC doesn't have that kind of jurisdiction. So obviously, Russia's pushing back against what they're seeing as double standards in Washington when it comes to the ICC and alleged war crimes. Russian officials are openly saying to the Biden administration, you know, guys, you are just a bunch of clowns, right? You're just, and no one takes you guys seriously. No one. Your own country doesn't take Biden seriously. 90% of the world's population doesn't take Biden seriously. And that charge has actually turned out to be Russia's revenge against Biden, a very real revenge that's happening right now as we speak. Russian officials have been exploiting the hostilities in the Middle East, particularly the recent missile exchange between Iran and Israel, by convincing more and more Middle Eastern administrative officials that the United States simply can no longer be trusted as a guarantor of stability in the region. Indeed, we actually saw what was in many respects a coup against Washington policy in the Middle East when China, back in March of last year, announced that they had brokered an agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia to reestablish diplomatic relations that had been severed for decades. The two nations reopened their respective embassies, they exchanged ambassadors, and they brought an end to decades of proxy wars fought between the two nations, most recently in Yemen. For years, U.S. officials exploited the sectarian differences between Sunni Saudi Arabia and Shiite Iran to keep the two nations apart. But no more. Now, with China and Russia as full players in Middle Eastern security and stability, D.C.'s influence has started to wane, and wane significantly. Ever since the events of October 7th, Russian officials have been behind the scenes, blaming the whole outbreak of hostilities on the United States and its old, tired policies that are literally causing the whole world to split apart. Speaking predominantly with Arab audiences, Russian officials are being well received in their denouncing of U.S. policy in the region that they claim was overwhelmingly one-sided in Washington's support for Israel. And by the way, Russia and Israel have a great relationship. Israel did not participate in the Biden-led sanctions against Russia. But Russia is offering the Middle East a far more balanced approach to security and stability. And that's because while the United States and Iran are basically bitter mortal enemies, Russia and Iran are allies. They've run joint military exercises together. They've used each other's airspace. They used each other's military bases. And so that means that when Israel needs a third-party liaison, as tensions with Iran escalate, they naturally are turning to Putin to help arbitrate a de-escalation. So ironically, the breakout of hostilities in the Middle East are ultimately benefiting Russia. All the while, Biden has never been weaker at home, and U.S. foreign policy has never been more challenged abroad. And I have to say, all of this came to mind when I came across a rather silly article from The Atlantic. Of course, anything The Atlantic publishes at this point is utter nonsense. But this article is entitled, "The New Propaganda War. Autocrats in China and Russia are now making common cause with MAGA Republicans to discredit liberalism and freedom around the world." And it's a perfect example of what scholars call a post-normal lag, And what a post-normal lag is it's essentially a condition of denial. It's an attempt to disguise dynamics of real change in the guise of the familiar. In this case, what's familiar to the neoliberal. In this case, this author for The Atlantic, she refuses to see that much of the world no longer buys or wants anything to do with the ideological and political liberalism that The Atlantic pushes. It has nothing to do with Russia or China or India or Turkey or Iran for that matter. It has everything to do with liberals like the ones who write for The Atlantic. It's not Russia and China and, of course, MAGA who are undermining liberalism around the world. It's liberals doing that. It's odious, duplicitous liberals who preach tolerance but practice intimidation. They preach democracy but practice dictatorship. They preach justice and practice weaponized legalism, lawfare. They preach freedom and practice tyranny. Nobody buys their bullshit anymore. The world is moving away from the worldview of the writers at The Atlantic and the clowns made up of both parties in D.C. A new world is rising, and perhaps, just perhaps, that world can finally broker a lasting peace in the Middle East. Here's your opportunity to tell big tech tyrants where they can stick it. Click on that link below and download our brand new cancel-proof Turley Talks app, and you can sign our special declaration of restoration. That's our petition to big tech that declares a new day is dawned. They are no longer in control, and we are taking our nation back. We've already got over 1,000 signatures of courageous patriots, and yours is next. Click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com right now.